In late adulthood, according to Erickson, we do a recap of our lives and have a sense of ego integrity or a sense of despair. Depending on all we did throughout our lives, we will either have a sense of integrity or feel desperate for fixing the things that we feel should have been done correctly. Ego integrity is a feeling that our life has been worthwhile and that we could just embrace death if it were to come. This involves, again, coming to terms with death and accepting that it's imminent and that it will not be escaped. Reminiscing is helpful and healthy when it comes down to achieving ego integrity. As we look back as what we did, you don't have to have a perfect life and perfect children, but just having an idea and a sense of who we are would give us a foundation for the process of evaluating our past behaviors. And if our recap of it is a healthy one, then we would have ego integrity. If not, then we would go on this unnecessary and extremely speedy process of trying to fix something in a year that should have been done well for the past 40, 50, or 60 years. Some of the ways in which we cope with death and with the end of our lives is by turning to religious views. And religious coping is, again, the tendency in which we would have a religious belief or attend a religious institution so that we could get support in times of difficulty. What we mean by that support is basically the loss of loved ones through death is higher during this time. Illnesses that can bring about pain and that may not have a cure and chronic, and those can be debilitating, as well as also our understanding that our body is no longer what it used to be. We find that women, for the most part, make more use of religious coping than men do. And we find that elders who place a great deal of emphasis on religious faith tend to worry much less than those who do not. We cannot assess and measure faith and the effect of that. We can see that it can bring about a sense of peace. We also find that regularly attending religious services is also strongly correlated with better physical and emotional health. Our partnerships, more specifically with our marital spouses, we find that the satisfaction tends to be higher in late adulthood years when children are still home. Older couples often report having higher levels of pleasure and lower levels of conflict, as the things that used to matter before no longer do. They're now just living in peace with one another, sometimes not even a need of communicating is reported, and just simply being with one another makes them feel happy. Elders whose single status is the result of divorce often have higher mortality rates than either those who have been widowed or peers who have never married. So we seem to find that there's a sense of satisfaction with those who are living with someone. There is a notion that sometimes retirement can make our health go bad or maybe make it go good. And we find that research shows that health does not change for the better or for worse simply because of retirement. If you have a pre-existing condition before you retire, then it's possible that it could take a toll thereafter, but it will not necessarily deteriorate thereafter. Sometimes we do see that a stroke or other conditions can occur after retirement, but it's also important to note that it's typically at an age where those things were likely to happen. And there's no telling whether it wouldn't have happened had the person stayed employed. Those with marital problems were also likely to report more daily hassles in their retired lives, and that is because so far you've been able to coexist, if you will, because you have limited exposure to one another. Now that you're living at home every day, every single morning, it could generate some type of conflict as we have to once again adjust with one another. Life satisfaction in early adulthood often predicts the life satisfaction in late adulthood. And the idea that you're going to be a grumpy old man could probably be better predicted by how easygoing you may be earlier in your life. If you're a grumpy young man, then it is quite likely you're going to be a grumpy old man. But it's not likely to be the case if you're a happy and easygoing young man. We find that overall, single older adults continue to be more likely to be poor than married peers among older singles. And it has a lot to do with the way we do taxes in our tax system. For the most part, our tax system is set up for family, not for single individuals. We find also that women are more likely to be poorer than men, 12% versus 7% respectively. And this can also bring about a lot of conditions, health and emotional, in late adulthood.